The cold metal corridors of the UES frontier hummed with the steady rhythm of life support systems as Captain Jake Morrison walked toward the bridge. His boots echoed against the floor plates while he reviewed the mission reports on his tablet. The diplomatic talks at Andromeda Station had gone better than anyone expected. Ambassador Lisa Carter had spent 3 weeks negotiating with the Galaxy Council representatives, and everything pointed toward humanity finally getting full membership. In the galactic community, Jake reached the bridge and settled into his command chair. The view screen showed the endless black of space dotted with distant stars. They were still 2 days out from Earth, traveling at standard cruise speed through the Outer Rim territories. The ship felt peaceful, almost sleepy after the intense weeks of diplomatic meetings. Ambassador Carter entered the bridge carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a satisfied smile. She had been working on her final report since they left the station. The negotiations had covered everything from trade agreements to shared technology programs. The council representatives seemed genuinely interested in what humanity could bring to their ancient alliance of civilizations. Captain Morrison, I wanted to thank you and your crew again for providing such excellent support during the mission, Carter said as she approached his chair. The council was impressed by your professionalism. I think it helped our case considerably. Jake nodded politely. He had commanded exploration vessels for 12 years, but this diplomatic mission felt different. The Galaxy Council controlled hundreds of star systems and thousands of different species. Getting accepted into their organization would change everything for humanity. No more isolation, no more struggling to develop technology on their own. No more wondering if they were alone in facing the dangers of deep space. Communications. Officer Ryan Phillips looked up from his station with a puzzled expression. He was monitoring the standard traffic channels, keeping track of shipping routes and emergency broadcasts. Most of the chatter was routine, but something had caught his attention. Captain, I'm picking up some unusual transmissions, Ryan reported. They're heavily encrypted and coming from the direction we just traveled. The signal strength suggests multiple ships, probably military vessels. Jake frowned. Military traffic near Andromeda Station was not uncommon, but the timing seemed odd. The council had assured them that the space around the station was clear of any major fleet movements. He walked over to Ryan's station and looked at the signal analysis. Can you break the encryption? Jake asked. Ryan shook his head. It's beyond our current capabilities. The algorithm is more advanced than anything in our databases. But Captain, there's something else. The transmission frequency matches Council military protocols. Ambassador Carter moved closer, her coffee forgotten. That doesn't make sense. The Council told us their nearest military forces were stationed 3 systems away. They said it was to avoid making us uncomfortable during the negotiations. Jake felt the first stirring of unease in his stomach. During his years in space, he had learned to trust his instincts. Something about this situation felt wrong. He turned to his navigation officer. Kelly Brooks, plot our current position relative to those signal sources. I want to know exactly where those ships are located. Kelly's fingers moved quickly over her console. She was young for a navigation officer, but she had the best spatial awareness Jake had ever seen. Within minutes, she had a clear picture of the surrounding space. Captain, I'm showing at least 15 ships in formation, approximately 2 light hours behind us. They're maintaining our exact course and speed, staying just outside normal sensor range. The bridge fell silent except for the constant hum of the ship's systems. Jake felt his unease growing into genuine concern. Ships following them could be a coincidence, but not ships using advanced military encryption while maintaining perfect formation. Dr. Amanda Foster entered the bridge at that moment, carrying a datapad filled with her research notes. She had spent the entire diplomatic mission studying samples and data that the Council had shared as gestures of goodwill. Her work was supposed to help establish the scientific cooperation that would be part of humanity's membership. Captain, I was hoping to discuss some of the biological data the Council provided, Amanda said. There are some interesting patterns I wanted to run by Ambassador Carter. Jake held up his hand. Doctor, your timing is perfect. We may have a situation developing. Ryan, keep monitoring those encrypted transmissions. See if you can identify any pattern or timing that might give us a clue about their content. Ryan adjusted his equipment and focused on the mysterious signals. The encryption was definitely beyond their ability to break, but he could analyze the transmission patterns. Military communications usually followed predictable structures. Even when encrypted, after 30 minutes of careful analysis, Ryan's face went pale. "Captain, I think I've found something. The transmission timing matches standard Council fleet coordination protocols. These aren't random ships traveling the same route. They're operating as a coordinated battle group." Ambassador Carter set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. "A battle group? But why would the Council need military ships in this area? They told us the negotiations were proceeding smoothly." Jake's mind raced through the possibilities. None of them were good. Either the Council was lying about their military presence, or something had changed dramatically since they left Andromeda Station. He needed more information before he could make any decisions. "Amanda, those biological samples the Council gave you, did they ask for anything in return?" Jake asked. Amanda consulted her notes. "They requested genetic samples from various Earth species, including humans. They said it was for their xenobiology database. Standard procedure for new member species." Chill ran down Jake's spine. Genetic samples could be used for many purposes, not all of them friendly. Combined with the mysterious fleet following them, the picture was becoming clearer and more frightening. "Ryan, I want you to attempt something," Jake said. "Try to intercept one of those encrypted transmissions using our most sensitive equipment. Even if we can't decode it, we might be able to learn something from the signal characteristics." Ryan worked for another hour, adjusting the ship's communication array to maximum sensitivity. The breakthrough came by accident when a solar flare caused temporary interference with the Council's encryption system. For just a few seconds, part of a transmission came through in clear text. The words that appeared on Ryan's screen made everyone on the bridge freeze in horror. The partial message read, "Human elimination protocol activated. Timeline moved to immediate implementation. No survivors." Jake stared at the screen, his mind struggling to process what they had discovered. The diplomatic mission had been a lie. The friendly negotiations, the promises of membership, the scientific cooperation, all of it designed to keep humanity distracted while the Council prepared to destroy them completely. Ambassador Carter sank into a nearby chair, her face white with shock. They were never going to accept us. This whole time, they were planning to kill us. Jake's training kicked in, pushing aside the fear and disbelief. His ship and crew were in immediate danger, and Earth had no idea what was coming. The galaxy Council had positioned their forces perfectly while humanity remained completely unaware of the threat. "Kelly, plot a course for Earth, maximum speed," Jake ordered. "Ryan, prepare a priority message to Earth Command. We need to warn them immediately." As the UES Frontier changed course and began accelerating toward home, Jake realized that his crew might be humanity's only hope. The Council had made one crucial mistake in their perfect plan. They had allowed witnesses to survive, and now those witnesses were racing to sound the alarm before it was too late. The UES Frontier shook violently as Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez pushed the engines far beyond their normal limits. Warning lights flashed red across the engineering deck while he worked frantically to keep the ship moving at maximum speed toward Earth. Every minute counted now that they knew the truth about the Galaxy Council's intentions. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the starfield stretch past them as they accelerated. The ship was moving faster than it had ever moved before, but it still would not be fast enough. Even at their current dangerous speed, they were still days away from Earth, and the Council fleet could strike at any moment. Communications Officer Ryan Phillips hunched over his station, trying to establish contact with Earth Command. The problem was distance and the Council's jamming systems. Every time he thought he had broken through the interference, the signal would fade or become corrupted. The Council was clearly prepared for this possibility. "Captain, I'm getting fragments of communication from Earth," Ryan reported. "It sounds like normal traffic. There's no indication that they know about any threat." The diplomatic channels are still active, and they're showing the Council as friendly contacts. Jake felt his frustration growing. Earth's government was completely unaware that their diplomatic partners were actually preparing to destroy them. The Council had played their deception perfectly, maintaining friendly communications right up until the moment they would launch their attack. Ambassador Lisa Carter paced back and forth across the bridge. Her diplomatic training had not prepared her for this kind of betrayal. She had spent weeks building relationships with Council representatives who had been lying to her face the entire time. Every friendly gesture, every promise of cooperation, every assurance of peaceful intentions had been calculated manipulation. "We need more proof," Carter said suddenly. "Even if we reach Earth, they might not believe us. The Council has been so convincing in their diplomatic efforts. We need concrete evidence that cannot be disputed." Dr. Amanda Foster looked up from her research station where she had been analyzing the biological data the Council had provided. Her discovery was even more disturbing than the military threat they had already uncovered. "I think I've found something," Amanda announced. "The genetic samples the Council requested from us weren't for their xenobiology database. They've been using them to develop a biological weapon specifically designed to target human DNA." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this new horror. The Council was not just planning a military attack. They intended to use biological warfare to ensure that no human could survive their assault. Jake made a decision that would either save his crew or get them all killed. "Kelly Brooks, change course. We're not going straight to Earth." Navigation Officer Kelly looked confused. "Sir, where do we go then?" "There's a Council monitoring station in the Beta Centauri system. It's only 6 hours away at our current speed. If we can get inside their network, we can gather the proof we need and possibly learn more about their attack timeline." Ambassador Carter stopped pacing. "Captain, that's extremely dangerous. If they detect us, we'll be destroyed before we can warn anyone." Jake nodded grimly. "If we go to Earth with just our word against the Council's established diplomatic relationships, they might not act fast enough. We need undeniable evidence." Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, I can mask our energy signature for maybe 4 hours. After that, the modifications will burn out our stealth systems permanently." "That's enough time," Jake replied. "Security Chief Linda Hayes, report to the bridge. We're going to need a boarding team." Linda Hayes arrived within minutes, already wearing her combat gear. She was a former military specialist who had joined the exploration service after the border conflicts ended. Her experience with dangerous missions made her the perfect choice for this desperate plan. "Captain, I'll need a small team," Linda said. "Too many people will increase our chances of detection. I recommend taking Marine Sergeant Paul Carter and Tech Specialist Nancy Wright. They're both qualified for this type of operation." Jake approved the team selection. Paul Carter was Ambassador Carter's younger brother, a tough Marine who had volunteered for the diplomatic mission to spend time with his sister. Nancy Wright was their best computer specialist, capable of breaking into almost any system if given enough time. The UES Frontier approached the Council monitoring station using every stealth technique they had developed. The station was smaller than Andromeda Station, but heavily armed and surrounded by automated defense systems. Getting inside would require perfect timing and a lot of luck. Tony Rodriguez had modified their shuttle to match Council energy signatures. It would not fool a detailed scan, but it might get them close enough to dock with the station. The boarding team would have less than 2 hours to get inside, download the information they needed, and escape before their disguise failed. Linda Hayes led her team through the shuttle bay and into their modified craft. Paul Carter checked his weapons while Nancy Wright loaded her computer infiltration tools. They all knew this mission had very little chance of success, but they also knew that failure meant the end of humanity. The shuttle launched silently from the frontier and glided toward the monitoring station. Linda piloted the craft with steady hands while Paul monitored the station's defensive systems. Nancy prepared her equipment for the rapid data extraction they would need to perform. They docked with the station without triggering any alarms. The Council's security systems were designed to detect human technology, but the modified shuttle registered as a routine supply transport. Linda's team had exactly 90 minutes before the next scheduled communication check would expose their presence. Inside the station, they found rows of computer terminals monitoring communications across dozens of star systems. Nancy immediately began accessing the central database while Paul and Linda stood guard. The information they discovered was worse than anything they had imagined. The Council had been planning humanity's destruction for over a year. The diplomatic mission had been scheduled specifically to keep human leadership distracted while Council forces moved into position around Earth's solar system. The attack was not set for weeks in the future as they had assumed. It was scheduled to begin in less than 72 hours. Nancy downloaded terabytes of data including fleet movements, weapon specifications, and communication logs. The evidence showed that the Council had eliminated dozens of other species. Using the same tactics, they would invite promising civilizations to join their alliance, then destroy them when they became too advanced or independent. The most horrifying discovery was the biological weapon program. The Council had been developing species-specific viruses for centuries, using them to ensure complete extermination of their targets. The human samples they had requested were the final component needed to deploy their latest creation. Linda's team completed their mission with minutes to spare. They raced back to their shuttle as the station's automated systems began detecting irregularities in their access patterns. Paul managed to disable the station's long-range communications before they escaped, buying them precious time before the Council realized they had been discovered. The shuttle returned to the frontier just as their stealth modifications failed completely. Tony Rodriguez immediately began preparing the ship for maximum speed toward Earth while Ryan Phillips worked to establish emergency communications with human forces. Dr. Foster analyzed the downloaded biological data and confirmed their worst fears. The Council's virus was designed to remain dormant for weeks after exposure, then activate simultaneously across all infected populations. Even if some humans survived the initial military attack, the biological weapon would finish the job. Captain Morrison realized they were carrying information that could save humanity, but only if they could reach Earth in time. The Council fleet was already in position, and the attack could begin at any moment. The race against time had become a race for the survival of the entire human species. The UES Frontier streaked through space at dangerous speeds while Council scout ships closed in from 3 directions. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered under the strain of its overworked engines. Behind them, enemy vessels were gaining ground despite Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez's best efforts to squeeze more power from their damaged systems. Communications. Officer Ryan Phillips worked desperately at his station, trying to punch through the Council's jamming signals that surrounded Earth's solar system. Every attempt to contact Earth Command resulted in static or corrupted fragments of transmission. The Council had been preparing for this moment, ensuring that no warning could reach humanity's homeworld. Captain, I'm detecting at least 20 more Council ships moving into intercept positions, Navigation Officer Kelly Brooks reported. They're trying to box us in before we reach the inner system. Jake studied the tactical display showing the enemy movements. The Council forces were positioning themselves like hunters driving prey into a trap. They knew the frontier was carrying vital information, and they were determined to prevent that intelligence from reaching Earth. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood behind Ryan's station, watching him fight against the jamming systems. Her diplomatic training felt useless in this situation. All her years of negotiation and peaceful conflict resolution meant nothing against an enemy that had been planning genocide from the beginning. Try the emergency frequencies, Carter suggested. The ones reserved for colony disasters. They might not be monitoring those channels as closely. Ryan adjusted his equipment and began broadcasting on the emergency network. The signal was weak and broken, but fragments were getting through. Earth's outer monitoring stations were starting to receive pieces of their desperate warning. Dr. Amanda Foster worked frantically in her laboratory. analyzing the biological weapon data they had stolen from the Council monitoring station. What she discovered made her stomach turn with horror. The virus was not just designed to kill humans. It was engineered to cause maximum suffering, breaking down the immune system slowly while the victim remained conscious and aware. "Captain, you need to see this," Amanda called from her lab. "The biological weapon is worse than we thought. It's designed to activate simultaneously across all human populations. The Council has been distributing it through their medical cooperation programs for months." Jake left the bridge and hurried to Amanda's laboratory. The data she showed him revealed the true scope of the Council's betrayal. They had been poisoning humanity while pretending to help them. Medical supplies, food shipments, even the water purification systems they had provided to Earth's colonies contained dormant viral agents. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. Amanda checked her calculations again. "Based on the activation timeline. In their files, the virus will become active in approximately 18 hours. Once it starts, there's no stopping it. Every human who has been exposed will die within days." Jake felt the weight of his species' survival pressing down on him. Not only did they need to warn Earth about the military attack, but they also had to alert every human colony about the biological contamination. Millions of people were walking around with death already in their bodies. Completely unaware of their fate, the ship shook violently as Council energy weapons struck their rear shields. Security Chief Linda Hayes had positioned defensive teams throughout the ship, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Their only advantage was speed and the element of surprise. "Return fire," Jake ordered as he rushed back to the bridge. All weapons maximum intensity. The Frontier's weapons systems were designed for exploration and light defense, not combat with military vessels. Their shots barely scratched the Council ship's advanced armor, but the return fire was devastating. Hull breaches appeared across 3 decks, and the ship's artificial gravity flickered as power systems took damage. Tony Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom, strained with effort and desperation. "Captain, the engines are failing. We've got maybe 30 minutes before complete shutdown. I'm rerouting everything I can, but we're running on borrowed time." Ryan suddenly looked up from his communications station with excitement. "Captain, I'm getting through. Earth Command is responding to our emergency transmission." The main screen flickered and Admiral Helen Parker's face appeared, distorted by static and interference. She looked annoyed rather than concerned, clearly not understanding the gravity of the situation. "Captain Morrison, what is the meaning of this emergency override? You're disrupting important diplomatic communications with the Galaxy Council." Jake moved quickly to the center of the bridge. "Admiral Parker, Earth is under immediate threat. The Galaxy Council is preparing to attack within hours. Their diplomatic mission was a deception to keep us distracted while they positioned their forces." Admiral Parker frowned skeptically. "Captain, that's impossible. We're receiving regular updates from the Council representatives. They're making excellent progress on humanity's membership application. There's been no indication of hostility." Behind Jake, the tactical display showed more Council ships joining the pursuit. Ryan was picking up encrypted transmissions indicating that the main attack fleet was beginning to move toward Earth's outer defenses. Time was running out faster than they had anticipated. "Admiral, the Council has been lying to you," Jake said urgently. "They've already voted to eliminate humanity completely. We have proof, data stolen directly from their military networks. They're not just planning an attack, they've also poisoned our colonies with a biological weapon." The transmission flickered as Council jamming systems worked to block their communication. Admiral Parker's image wavered and broke into static several times before stabilizing enough for her to speak again. "Captain Morrison, these accusations are extremely serious. I need more than your word before I can mobilize our defenses against a peaceful alliance." Dr. Foster appeared beside Jake with a datapad containing the most damning evidence they had collected. "Admiral, I'm transmitting the biological weapon specifications now. The Council has been distributing viral agents through their aid programs. Every colony that accepted their medical assistance has been contaminated. The data transmission took precious seconds to complete while Council ships continued to close in on their position. Jake watched the tactical display showing enemy vessels moving into attack formation around Earth's solar system. The main assault was beginning, whether they succeeded in delivering their warning or not. Admiral Parker's expression changed as she reviewed the transmitted data. The scientific evidence was undeniable, showing detailed plans for humanity's complete extermination. Her skepticism transformed into horror and then into cold military determination. All Earth Defense Forces, this is Admiral Parker. Condition red, immediate activation. All colonies implement biological containment protocols. We are under attack by hostile forces disguising themselves as diplomatic allies. The communication channel erupted with confused voices as Earth's military commanders tried to understand how their peaceful negotiations had suddenly become a fight for survival. Years of diplomatic progress vanished in moments as the truth about the Council's intentions became clear. Jake felt a moment of relief knowing that Earth would not be caught completely unprepared, but their own situation remained desperate. The frontier was heavily damaged and surrounded by enemy ships. Their engines were failing and their weapons were nearly exhausted. Admiral, we're transmitting all the intelligence we gathered about Council fleet movements and weapon capabilities. Jake reported, use it to coordinate the defense. Humanity's survival depends on stopping them here. The transmission cut off as Council jamming systems finally overwhelmed their communications array. The frontier was alone again, racing toward Earth with enemy ships closing in from all sides. Jake realized that his crew had accomplished their mission of warning Earth, but their own survival was far from certain. Tony Rodriguez managed to coax one final burst of speed from their dying engines as Earth's solar system appeared on their long-range sensors. Behind them, Council ships prepared to finish off the witnesses to their betrayal. But ahead lay the beginning of a battle that would determine whether humanity survived or joined the countless other species the Council had quietly eliminated throughout their bloody history. Earth's solar system erupted into chaos as Admiral Helen Parker's defense orders reached every human military installation. Hidden weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations for the past decade suddenly came online, their true purpose finally revealed. The Council fleet, expecting to face primitive human defenses, found themselves staring at an arsenal they had never suspected existed. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the damaged UES Frontier as the first wave of Council ships encountered Earth's defensive network. Massive energy beams lanced out from what appeared to be empty space, striking the lead Council vessels with devastating precision. The enemy had walked into a carefully prepared trap. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez had managed to keep their failing engines running long enough to reach the outer defensive perimeter. The Frontier limped toward the nearest human battle station while Council pursuit ships found themselves under attack from multiple directions. Earth's defenders had turned the hunters into the hunted. Communications Officer Ryan Phillips established contact with Earth's Defense Coordination Center. The tactical displays showed hundreds of Council ships approaching from different vectors, but humanity's hidden preparations were evening the odds. Admiral Parker had spent years planning for the possibility of a major space conflict, even while pursuing peaceful diplomatic solutions. Dr. Amanda Foster worked desperately in her laboratory to distribute the biological weapon countermeasures to Earth's medical facilities. The antiviral compounds she had developed might not save everyone who had been exposed, but they could prevent the complete extinction the Council had planned. Every minute saved lives as the treatment reached human colonies across the galaxy. The first major engagement began near Jupiter's orbital path as Council heavy cruisers encountered Earth's main battle fleet. The enemy ships were larger and more heavily armed, but human tactics proved surprisingly effective. Captain Morrison watched as Earth vessels used unconventional maneuvers that confused the rigid Council battle formations. Navigation Officer Kelly Brooks monitored the tactical situation while guiding their damaged ship toward safety. The Council had expected an easy victory against what they believed was a young and technologically inferior species. Instead, They found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow standard military doctrine, Security Chief Linda Hayes coordinated, with Earth's defense forces to share the intelligence they had gathered from the Council monitoring station. The stolen data revealed weaknesses in Council ship designs and communication protocols that human commanders immediately began exploiting. Knowledge became as powerful as weapons in the desperate battle. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood on the bridge, watching her diplomatic career transform into military intelligence work. The Council representatives she had negotiated with for weeks were now revealed as advanced scouts for a genocide operation. Every friendly conversation had been a lie designed to keep humanity unprepared for the coming attack. The second wave of Council ships arrived with overwhelming numbers. Earth's defenders fought bravely, but the enemy's numerical superiority began to show. For every Council ship destroyed, 3 more took its place. The hidden defensive network that had given humanity early advantages was being systematically eliminated by concentrated enemy fire. Tony Rodriguez pushed the Frontier's damage systems beyond all reasonable limits as they approached the main battle zone. The ship was barely holding together, but Captain Morrison refused to retreat while Earth faced extinction. His crew had started this fight by discovering the Council's betrayal, and they would see it through to the end. Ryan Phillips intercepted a Council command transmission that made everyone on the bridge freeze with horror. The enemy commander was reporting back to the Council leadership about unexpected human resistance, but the response was even more chilling. The Council had backup plans that went far beyond military conquest. "Captain, they're not just trying to destroy our fleet," Ryan announced. "I'm detecting massive energy buildup signatures from their command ships. They're preparing to use planet-killing weapons if they can't achieve quick victory." Jake realized that the Council was willing to destroy Earth completely rather than allow humanity to survive their failed extermination attempt. The battle was no longer about military victory or defeat. It was about preventing the total annihilation of human civilization and everyone still living on their homeworld. Dr. Foster made a disturbing discovery while analyzing additional data from the Council networks. The biological weapon was just one part of a much larger plan. The Council had developed multiple extinction methods for different species, customizing their approach based on each civilization's strengths and weaknesses. "They've done this before," Amanda reported to the bridge. "The data shows records of dozens of other species that have been eliminated using similar tactics. We're not the first civilization they've betrayed, and we won't be the last if they succeed here." The battle reached its most critical point as Council reinforcements arrived in massive numbers. Earth's defensive fleet was outnumbered 50-1, and even their superior tactics could not overcome such overwhelming odds. Human ships fought with desperate courage, but the mathematical reality of the situation was becoming undeniable. "Admiral," Parker's voice came over all human communication channels as the defensive perimeter began to collapse. Her words were calm, but carried the weight of species-wide desperation. Earth's military leaders were preparing for the possibility that conventional resistance might not be enough to prevent humanity's extinction. Captain Morrison made a decision that would either save his species or destroy any chance of survival. The Frontier was too damaged to contribute meaningfully to the space battle, but they still carried the complete intelligence data they had stolen from the Council. That information might be more valuable than weapons in the right hands. "Kelly, plot a course for the outer system communication relays," Jake ordered. "We're going to broadcast everything we know to every inhabited world in the galaxy." Ambassador Carter understood immediately. "You want to expose the Council's crimes to all their member species. Show them that humanity is not the first civilization targeted for elimination." The plan was desperate and probably hopeless, but it was their only remaining option. If humanity was going to be destroyed, they could at least warn other species about the Council's true nature. The evidence they had gathered proved that the Council maintained galactic peace by quietly eliminating any civilization that became too independent or advanced. Navigation. Officer Brooks programmed their course toward the nearest galactic communication relay station while Tony Rodriguez prepared their transmission equipment. The Frontier began moving away from the main battle, carrying the most important message in galactic history toward an uncertain destination. Behind them, Earth's defenders continued their hopeless fight against overwhelming odds. The Council fleet pressed their attack with ruthless efficiency, destroying human ships and installations with methodical precision. The planet that had given birth to humanity hung in space like a blue jewel, beautiful and fragile, awaiting its fate. Ryan Phillips worked to prepare the transmission that would reveal the Council's centuries of hidden genocide to every civilized world in the galaxy. The message would include all their evidence, all their proof, and all their desperate hope that someone, somewhere, would choose to act on the truth they were about to reveal. Dr. Foster added her biological data to the transmission, showing how the Council had perfected the art of species extinction through both military and biological means. The evidence painted a picture of systematic extermination that had been hidden from the galaxy for generations. Captain Morrison realized that win or lose, this battle would change everything. Either humanity would survive and expose the Council's crimes, or they would die knowing that their sacrifice might save other species from the same fate. The future of galactic civilization hung in the balance as the damaged Frontier raced toward its appointment with destiny. The Galactic Communication Relay Station hung silent in deep space as the damaged UES Frontier approached its final destination. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his battered bridge watching the massive antenna arrays that could broadcast their message to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Behind them, the battle for Earth raged with desperate intensity, while humanity's survival hung by the thinnest of threads, communications. Officer Ryan Phillips worked frantically to prepare the transmission that would expose the Galaxy Council's centuries of hidden genocide. The message contained every piece of evidence they had gathered, every proof of betrayal, every record of systematic extermination that the Council had kept secret from their member civilizations. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez managed one final miracle with their dying ship systems. The Frontier's engines had failed completely, but he rerouted power from life support and weapons to give them enough energy for the most important broadcast in galactic history. Every system on the ship was sacrificed to ensure their message would reach across the stars. Dr. Amanda Foster added her biological weapon data to the transmission, showing how the Council had perfected the art of species elimination through both military force and engineered diseases. The evidence revealed a pattern of calculated murder that stretched back generations, hidden behind the facade of peaceful galactic governance. As Ryan began the broadcast sequence, something unexpected appeared on their long-range sensors. Ships were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, but these vessels did not match any Council design patterns. Navigation Officer Kelly Brooks studied the new arrivals with growing amazement. "Captain, I'm detecting at least 30 ships of unknown configuration approaching the battle zone," Kelly reported. "They're not Council vessels, and they're not human either." Ambassador Lisa Carter joined Jake at the tactical display as they tried to identify the mysterious newcomers. The ships were clearly advanced with technology that seemed equal to or superior to Council standards. More importantly, they were positioning themselves between the Council fleet and Earth's remaining defenders. The galactic broadcast reached its first recipients as the transmission spread across the communication networks. On worlds throughout the galaxy, civilizations that had trusted the Council for generations suddenly learned the truth about their peaceful leaders. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Ryan's communication equipment lit up with incoming messages from dozens of different species. The evidence they had transmitted was being verified, analyzed, and confirmed by civilizations that had always wondered about the mysterious disappearances of promising young species throughout galactic history. Dr. Foster monitored the biological data transmissions and discovered something remarkable. Several of the responding civilizations reported similar suspicious medical programs initiated by the Council in recent years. The pattern of deception was becoming clear to species across the galaxy. The mysterious ships that had appeared at Earth revealed their intentions as they opened fire on the Council fleet. These were vessels from civilizations that had received humanity's broadcast and decided to act immediately. They represented species that recognized they could be next. On the Council's extermination list, Captain Morrison watched in amazement as the tide of battle began to turn. The Council forces, confident in their overwhelming numerical superiority, suddenly found themselves caught between Earth's defenders and a coalition of alien species they had never expected to face. Admiral Helen Parker's voice reached the frontier. Through the chaos of battle as Earth's communication networks came back online, the arrival of unexpected allies had given humanity's defenders new hope and tactical advantages they desperately needed. All human forces, this is Admiral Parker. We are no longer fighting alone. Our warning has reached civilizations across the galaxy, and they are choosing to stand with us against Council tyranny. The Council command ships attempted to withdraw as their carefully planned genocide operation collapsed into a multi-species rebellion, but the Allied fleets had positioned themselves to prevent any escape. The hunters had become the hunted as justice finally caught up with their centuries of hidden crimes. Tony Rodriguez managed to restore partial communications as more Allied ships continued arriving from across the galaxy. Each new arrival brought representatives from civilizations that had lost friends, neighbors, or trading partners to the Council's systematic elimination programs. Ryan Phillips intercepted Council emergency transmissions showing the scope of the Galactic uprising. On dozens of worlds, Council administrative centers were being surrounded by angry populations, demanding answers about missing civilizations and suspicious medical programs. Dr. Foster received confirmation that her biological weapon countermeasures were working. Human colonies across the galaxy were successfully treating the Council's viral agents, preventing the extinction that had been planned for months. The attempt at biological genocide had failed completely. The battle reached its climax as Council reinforcement fleets arrived to find themselves facing not just human resistance, but a full galactic coalition united against their tyranny. Species that had been kept divided and weak for generations were working together for the first time in centuries. Ambassador Carter realized that her diplomatic mission had succeeded in ways she never could have imagined. Instead of humanity joining the Council's alliance, they had created an entirely new galactic order based on truth instead of deception. Captain Morrison made his final report as the Council fleet began surrendering rather than face complete destruction. The species that had ruled the galaxy through fear and manipulation for so long were finally being held accountable for their crimes. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Frontier to all human and allied forces. The Galaxy Council's reign of terror is ending. Their attempts to eliminate humanity have instead united the galaxy against tyranny. The communication networks carried his words to every world where the truth had been revealed. The message was simple but powerful, reaching civilizations that had lived under Council control for generations without knowing the price of their peace. As the last Council ships either surrendered or fled into deep space, a new chapter in galactic history began. The coalition that had formed to save humanity became the foundation for a truly peaceful alliance based on mutual respect and honest cooperation. Dr. Foster's medical teams worked with alien scientists to develop treatments for other species that had been targeted by Council biological weapons. The cooperation that emerged from their shared struggle created scientific advances that benefited everyone. The UES Frontier, battered but victorious, slowly made its way back toward Earth as cleanup operations began throughout the solar system. Their desperate mission to warn humanity had accomplished far more than anyone could have hoped. Ryan Phillips received the final transmission from Earth Command as Admiral. Parker announced the formation of the new Galactic Freedom Alliance. The organization would be built on principles of transparency, equality, and protection for all species regardless of their technological development. Captain Morrison looked out at the stars knowing that humanity had not just survived their first test as a spacefaring species, but had helped liberate an entire galaxy from hidden oppression. The Council had tried to eliminate them to preserve their power, but instead had triggered the very revolution they had always feared. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in centuries, that change represented hope instead of fear. Humanity had issued their final warning to tyranny, and the universe had answered with justice.